Conservatives have never really trusted Jon Stewart, and with good reason. While The Daily Show host skewers the left and the right, his own liberalism is pretty obvious, which might be why revelations that Stewart personally visited President Obama in the White House have caused such a kerfuffle. A Politico report says Jon Stewart had 2 secret meetings with the president, one in 2011 and another in 2014. The story called Stewart at times a more potent influence on policy than Obama himself, and suggested the White House was trying to leverage that power. If so, Fox News' Howie Kurtz says it worked like a charm.
Last year, the president chatted up Stewart hours before warning Russia against further military intervention in Ukraine. The next Daily Show mocked Vladimir Putin.
Russian forces storming Ukrainian bases. That is blatant, naked aggression, or at the very least, disturbingly shirtless aggression.
Now, it's true that Stewart and the president can seem a tad chummy.
I can't believe that you're leaving before me. In fact, I'm issuing a new executive order.
But Stewart is still willing to rip the administration's failures, like the disastrous rollout of healthcare.gov.
Confusing error messages, broken calculators.
The calculator doesn't work!
And here's Stewart just last week, pressing Obama on troubles at the VA.
7 years into it, we have not been able to demonstrate the agility.
No.
Waiting times are going back up.
Stewart addressed Politico's Scoop on air, saying those meetings, which were recorded in the White House visitor log, weren't really secret at all.
It was openly listed, and I went through the normal White House entrance like everybody else, and I told my mom, something is not a secret just because you don't know about it.
And he scoffed at the notion that he mocked Putin because the president gave him a push.
So you believe as Russian troops gathered at the border of the Ukraine, Obama summoned me, just in case he needed help turning young Americans against Putin.
But those presidential visits do make one thing clear. It's been years since Stewart was just a comedian. I thought his rebuttal was pretty good, pretty convincing. That being said, I don't want to overstate the extent to which he's willing to call out the Obama administration. He will on some matters, like that healthcare.gov rollout. But then there are other areas, for example, the administration's treatment of the media, where I think he's got a great platform to push the president and hasn't really used it to his advantage. So,
his rebuttal, the words were great. He seemed very nervous. His body language was totally off what it usually is. I think that to a certain extent he broke faith with his audience. When he was visiting President Obama at the White House, he should have been letting his viewers know. That's all. You get invited to go to the White House, you go, but you tell your viewers.
Well, because he's a sort of a semi-comic, semi-serious presence. Because if I visited with, Charlie Baker at his home or Mayor Walsh at his home, I don't think I would then make a point of letting it be known on air.
I think this is silly. This is just silly. I mean, as he has said from time to time, he's a comedian. He's not a newsman. No matter what his platform is, no matter what the format is, no matter the dressings that the Daily Show takes within sort of the theater of television, it's still comedy. He's not Dan Rather. I mean, this is silly. And for this to become a story when there are off-the-record meetings with columnists and D.C. reporters at the White House all the time is preposterous. I'm sorry. So Jon Stewart went and talked to the president a couple of times. Presidents talk to people all the time. Sometimes it's privately, sometimes it's publicly. I mean, I just fail to see why this is an issue.
I respectfully disagree with that. Jon Stewart has feasted off the perception, which I think has a good degree of validity, that he's not just a comedian, that his show is a primary source for news and information for an entire generation of Americans. Let's not forget the big rally on the Mall, where he mocked both parties. And I'm not arguing that this exposes Stewart as a secret agent of the Obama administration.
Mocked both parties, but styled himself as this sort of change agent who would, banish cynicism from the land.
He aspired to be more than a joke teller. And fine, but I agree with Dan. He should have said something about it at the time and then turned it into a joke. But the response, it seemed to me, was far too jocular. Again, that's what he does. He makes jokes, but I think it's reasonable to expect a little bit more serious response to what's really a serious claim that you've engaged in something approaching false advertising.
I agree with him when he says it's not a secret if you don't, just because you don't know about it, and because however he characterizes himself, let's see that he's more than a comedian. He still is not a journalist, so he's not required to tell me a thing, as far as I'm concerned, unless there is something that we can say, checked in, saw Obama, next day wrote a joke about that. Okay, then I want to know about it. But I didn't really feel like, okay.
He's not a journalist. Is he a pundit? I would say he is. He's functioned as a pundit.
He has incredible access to powerful individuals. They come and speak with him, and
to Justin's point, pundits don't ever. They tell you all of the people they're meeting with.
And cultural commentator and political critic.
Think about this. He's on at 11 o'clock at night. He's in the same hour and in the same formats, really, of people like his, former colleague Stephen Colbert, now hosting the Late Show.
But the time slot doesn't dictate the
Jimmy
content.
Fallon.
Though.
I'm sorry, he's an entertainer, and this is ridiculous. I think that what this story does, is basically put out the specter of something mischievous going on, and just saying, well, maybe there was something.
When he goes off about gun control, and the need for gun control, as he has in the past after some of the tragic shootings that we've seen, and gives a very emotional, direct, heartfelt plea, is he being a comedian then?
Yeah, but my point is,
Sarah, I want to hear Justin's take on this.
I think that he's being an entertainer, and I think that you can be honest about that. If he's
cheering up, talking about how we need gun control in this country, you really think he's being an entertainer at that point?
I think he can be both. I think he is both. But my point, and beyond, he's beyond a comedian. I will absolutely see that. I just don't see why he had to say, I went to see the president.
All right, clearly we should have started with this discussion. We could be doing 30 minutes on this, so I look forward to the next Jon Stewart segment. Hope I can be a part of it.
Think about it this way. Would somebody have asked Nixon if he was, would somebody have asked Elvis if he was getting advice from Nixon just because he met with Nixon in the Oval Office?
Elvis never posited himself as an advocate. I hope not.
Elvis wasn't probably the best media critic working in the country.
Probably not.
Possibly.